So, what happens when the child you thought you knew asks you to see them in a totally new light? Today, we're going to explore a parent's journey of supporting their transgender child. And it's a really powerful story about letting go of fear to find a connection that's, well, deeper and way more authentic.
And you know, this whole journey really kicks off with this one simple but pretty profound moment. You have a father who's initially feeling like he's losing the right to name his child, but instead of that, he's invited to collaborate. They actually voted on a new name together. And just like that, they turned a moment that felt like a loss into the very foundation of their shared path forward.
All right, let's dive in. Our path today is really going to mirror the one a lot of families travel. We'll start with that initial shared experience, then we'll clear away some common myths, get into the practical ways to actually offer support, and finally, we'll explore the incredible legacy of living an authentic life.
Okay, this first step can be the hardest one. It's all about reframing what feels like a loss into this incredible opportunity. It's not about losing the child you're named, it's about being invited to team up with them as they become the person they were always meant to be.
But, before parents can really collaborate, they often have to clear away all the noise, and a lot of fear is rooted in just plain misinformation. So let's break down the 5 most common myths that really get in the way of understanding. The first, and honestly the most damaging myth, is this idea that being transgender is some kind of pathology, a disorder that needs to be fixed. I mean, this single misconception has fueled so much stigma and caused immense harm for decades, basically treating a natural part of who someone is as an illness.
Thankfully, the medical and psychological communities have really evolved on this. The focus isn't on the identity itself anymore, it's on the distress, the gender dysphoria that can come from that mismatch. See, being trans isn't the problem, the distress is. And affirming care, that's the solution.
Next up is the myth of choice. This idea that somebody just wakes up one morning and decides to be transgender. It kind of paints identity as just a passing whim, when in reality it couldn't be more different.
And this is what I find so interesting. This slide just lays it out so clearly. A decision is an action, right? It's like choosing an outfit. But in identity, that's something else. It's an innate, deep-down sense of self. You don't choose to be right-handed, you just are. Gender identity works in that same fundamental way. Okay, this is a big one for parents. The fear of encouraging something that might just be a phase. They worry that by supporting their child's exploration, they might be accidentally pushing them down a permanent path they'll regret later on. But the research, it tells a totally different story. Support doesn't create a trans identity. What it does is create a safe harbor for a child to figure out who they already are. In fact, it's the lack of support that is consistently linked to much higher risks of anxiety, depression, and self-harm.
And finally, let's look at these 2 related myths, this search for a single trans gene and the idea that being trans is just some kind of social media trend. Both of these are just massive oversimplifications of a really complex human reality.
So the takeaway here is pretty simple. Seeing more trans people in the world doesn't create more trans people. It just gives people who already feel this way the language and the role models to finally recognize an identity they've always felt inside. Visibility offers them the words for their own truth. So now that we've cleared away some of those myths, how do we actually move from theory to action? Let's take a look at what practical, real, effective support actually looks like.
So effective support really stands on 4 key pillars. First, you got to take care of yourself. You can't be an anchor for your child if you're totally overwhelmed. Next, it's about finding that balance of staying close while also giving them space to breathe. And so crucially, making your home a true safe haven, the one place where they know they are unconditionally loved and accepted.
And this right here just brilliantly illustrates the core strategy. Look, you can't shield your child from every ignorant comment or every battle they're going to face out there in the world. But what you can do is give them the slippers, that resilience, that self-worth, that deep safety that comes from knowing their home is a sanctuary. Real healing, it truly begins when we can see that everyone is navigating their own pain here. A parent might be grieving the future they had imagined, right? While their child is just fighting to be seen for who they are. The only way forward is through mutual compassion, acknowledging both of those hurts without assigning any blame.
All right, for our final section, let's zoom out a little bit. Because this isn't just about one family's journey. It's about the profound human legacy that the trans experience offers to every single one of us. And to really get this legacy, we have to ask a difficult but absolutely necessary question. With all the progress we've made, why does such intense fear and hostility toward trans people still exist? The source material offers a really powerful and kind of challenging answer. It suggests that maybe the animosity isn't really about gender at all. Maybe it's a reaction to the radical courage it takes to live an authentic life, which can feel like a judgment on those who are too afraid to do the same thing.
And that's what it comes down to. A trans person's journey isn't an anomaly. It's one of the purest forms of radical self-determination you can ever witness. It's the courage to define yourself against a world that is demanding you conform. And in that courage, there's a powerful lesson for every single one of us about what it truly means to live as our authentic selves.